Jennifer. Such
Jennifer.
a sight for sore eyes.
How are you guys?
I was looking at my choice of people here, and it's a little slanted,
It's a little slanted.
towards outspoken, sassy.
Like energy attracts like energy.
Yeah,
Michael.
I love it. I
Match
think
it, motherfucker.
you know what? I think part of the attraction to you three too is being a Brit. I resonate with your guys' ways.
Sense of humor. It's sense of humor, man. Dry as fuck.
Yeah. So let's just get straight into this. Are we all good, everyone? Welcome to
I have no
Yoga
idea
Biz.
what I'm going to say, but yeah, let's
That's
go.
okay. Free flow. Welcome to another episode of Yoga Biz Champ, and not just any episode, it is our 50th episode. So thank you everybody who listens to this podcast. Some of you binge listen, and when I chat to you, you regurgitate some of the shows back to me. I love it. Thank you to the folks that reach out to me on Instagram by direct message. I'm just in full appreciation of your support of this show. Enjoy. This is our 50th episode with a fun crew today. Enjoy. Yoga Biz Champ, 50th episode. Welcome.
Congratulations,
Thank
Michael.
you. Thanks. It takes persistence to keep going on this,
Yes.
But you guys have all been here, so I'm just going to introduce you. I've got 3 returning, I would call them somewhat sassy guests that have come to play today. And first, returning from season 2, episode 1 with Studio Chat is Jennifer Pahl from Twist Yoga in Oregon. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored to be with such a elite crew.
Elite group for sure. Season 3, episode 1, How I Broke Up with ClassPass. Now this, you guys might have a synergy, Jennifer.
I feel it.
Sarah. We have got Sarah Morgan for Red Sun Yoga in Florida. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor to be invited back.
I'm so glad to have you here. And last but definitely not least, my sidekick on multiple episodes on Yoga Biz Champ, including episode 49, Stephanie Breaux Bradley from Stephanie Breaux Bradley Consulting and the Sales Arms.
Thanks for having me. I took some, we talked about it last time. I think the name of the podcast was something about like hair and humidity, if y'all didn't get to watch it. Jennifer and Sarah, as you know, living in where we are, sometimes you don't have control at the volume to which your hair gets. And so Michael thought the podcast would be a great opportunity to kind of like dive into that, which is why you see more of the slick back look today, because
Stephanie, you
And
just, I had my hair up earlier, and it was, I was like, I better probably take it down because it was looking a little Rastafari.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's what Thursday afternoons goes. You end up being on a Zoom call looking and going, dry shampoo or do I wash? Can I take this one more day?
Just
All
put
pertinent
lipstick on.
information for you, Michael.
That's me. I just glasses and lipstick, call it good.
Me too.
Well, I've had my afternoon nap, so I'm ready.
All right, folks.
well,
Well, we're going to have a little bit of fun today. We've got 3 studio owners, or 2 studio owners and 2 previous studio owners. And I thought it would be a little bit fun for us to share a few stories today. And I actually used ChatGPT to randomize the order so that we don't have them back to back. And so,
How impressive.
So the first one we're going to start with is going to be our touching story, and she doesn't know it yet. The first person that's going to tell us a story is Jennifer from Twist Yoga.
A touching story.
Touching story.
Okay, so this was a really, I loved your 3 prompts. And I was really appreciated that, I got to think about them at 3:00 this morning because, like you wake up in the middle of the night and your brain gets to work, which is awesome. So the touching story was an easy one. I have this little box right here that I keep on my desk. And so I've owned my studio for almost 11 years and I've been consulting for about 4 years. And I have a huge stack. It's just
She's holding them up for the audio listeners.
I know, for the audio listeners, for the people in the back.
A big stack.
I have a big stack of cards and notes that people will write either to me personally or to the studio when they're saying a thank you, a nice thing. I have a separate box for the feedback bitchy ass notes, like, could you please have organic tampons? You know, we all know those people. So that's a different box and that's a different conversation. This is my nice box. So I picked one out that we recently got. And I left this at the front desk. I said, teachers, please read this sweet and amazing note and leave it at the front desk. It's a beautiful reminder of why we do what we do. And so as a student just left this in our little feedback jar. It said, my Valentine's love letter to Twist. In June 2023, I separated from my husband of 31 years. This has been a journey of healing and forgiveness that I have never experienced. I joined Twist as an added way to care for myself, along with a good therapist and a loving family. The experience of coming to class has been so nurturing. Some days feeling emotionally broken on the verge of constant tears, the spiritual component of yoga has been uplifting, sometimes if only for the moment. When I hear the words, let it go, my mind would always focus on letting the bitterness go and to stop the self-doubt that plagues me. I have been challenged physically, reminding myself I can be strong. Thank you, Twist, for doing what you do, for your wonderful instructors and positive message, inspiring, challenging, and grounding me one class at a time. Namaste. And then it just was anonymous.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
I know.
I love that. And what I also love is the idea of keeping those things. And I think that's a great thing for other studio owners, especially new studio owners at the beginning, to try and keep
Yeah,
those.
because you get frustrated, 10 times a day.
Yeah.
And when I see this little box there, I can open it up and just like grab a note from all kinds of time frames and just pick something out to, oh, here's a good one. This is a hope your birthday is fucking magical. So I mean, just to
I'm offended. I'm offended. I'm offended.
Speaking my language.
Yeah.
But I do like it. I do like having it right there, and it isn't
right
even
there.
if I don't open it and pull one out, it's there, just reminding me that it's bigger than all of the little stressors.
Yeah, I think I did a scrapbook for the first couple of years of all the press releases and the ads and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
I love that. Thank you, Jennifer.
That's beautiful.
Next up, Southern Stephanie.
What am I talking about?
This
my
one is
question. Oh, it's the same question?
This is a touching story.
Oh, my touching story. I didn't know when you said like randomly generated if it was like a question. That's why I was waiting for direction, which I don't normally do.
I pressed a button on ChatGPT and it said Stephanie.
And this is not about you physically touching someone. It's not like a hands-on touching story. So I just want to make sure we're all on the same.
It's been a while.
Pivot. Touching story actually came recently. And to caveat on what you said, Jennifer, is I don't think that when you get into the business, you realize the trickle effect of what you bring to the table for people. So when I opened up my studio here, it was very important for me to have a kids room or a child room because that was the stage of life that I was in. And I knew that the women needed that kind of support. And it was not an offering that was given in another space here. So when I did that, I go that in mind, and you're like, oh my God, nice little place for the kids to play, have some toys, all good. Not really thinking what the trickle effect does. Fast forward to, I run into one of the kids that came to the kids room post-cancer treatment diagnosis. And she had sent me a letter when I was in the treatment, like with all the little pictures and all of the other kind of stuff. And it was basically her praying for me, but letting me know how the studio and its practice helped her mother and how she was witness to that. And this from the time from a girl who was 10 years old. And it just really stopped me because you're like, okay, I'm in business. I'm going to deal with my avatar client. This is who I'm directing it to, not realizing the effect that you have on the people that are in direct line of sight or support for the people. And it was just really, I don't get surprised often. I don't get like often. And just to know that you supported someone, and it was so poignant for me at the time because my kids were getting that support from other people when I was not at a place to be able to give it in their time of life. And so that was my most touching story that came to mind when you asked. Was
Oh, I
not
love that.
realizing the
Yeah.
trickle effect of what
Yeah.
it looks like.
There's a whole life that happens in a studio, right? There's a whole, I mean, as studio owners, especially over a long time, mine was 13 years, you see the cycles of life through a studio and through its people. Yeah. I love that, Steph.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Thanks.
By random selection, I'm next. Beep. So mine's not really, my most touching story I've already told on the podcast, which is on this season, I think on Jill Agonius, and it was about, so I'm not going to go over that, but it's about love and loss and finding love again within a studio. So I won't go over that. So I'm going to talk about a touching person. And that was my 84-year-old girlfriend called Irmgard. And she was this crazy woman, had done yoga all her life. She was on many bipolar meds, and she found my studio one day. And then we kind of fell in love. She was out there, and then she would come every Thursday morning for her slow flow class with Wendy, 45 minutes early to be with me. You know, when you're getting ready before you're on the front desk and you're getting ready for the day, 45 minutes she would come. So I'd have to entertain her. If she was late, she had a certain spot. If she was late, people would save her spot for her. They would put props down for her. They knew that that was Irmgard's spot on Thursday morning. And then she would randomly be in the middle of the room and pull some, she had the strongest core than more than anybody. And she would randomly pull a pose out in the middle of the room and scream out in front of Wendy, "Look, Michael, look." Everybody absolutely loved her. And she used to knit these socks, and she started knitting these socks for we donated the money to hospice. The socks did not match. They were different colors, they were different shapes, they were different sizes. People love them. We called them Irmgard Shavasana socks. Everybody was wearing them in classes. Like they became a thing. We sold a ton of those, raised a ton of money for hospice on them. She knitted me a scarf, and she would do the count would be the same on the scarf. Like the knit count would be, but she would use different types of wool, so it would like start narrow and then go really, really wide. I still have it. And she would show up, and when she was driving, I remember being there on the front desk and watching her come one morning and bump a car that was out there.
I do that now.
And then like backed up, parked on the next block. Came back, I'm like, I didn't see that. So it's just, you know, she was just represented one of those people that touched everybody in a studio, and those people are so special, and she was such a big part of the studio. And you know, she was 84 years old and just a big part of the studio. So she was my touching part of the studio because she was there many, many years. And the beautiful thing, if I was away when she wasn't driving, she ended up in a nursing home. And when she wasn't driving, our teachers and our students that were on that path would pick her up and bring her to class. So yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah.
Do you miss having a studio, Michael?
Some days. I'm not teaching right now. This is the first time I'm not teaching in a long time, and so I miss that a little bit right now. And then it's very hard not to see a space and a great location and go, "Ooh, I could." So yeah, it's I do some days, but I think I get the best of it by helping other studio owners, really. So
Well, thank you for that.
yeah, thank you.
We should have had cocktails for this. I'm just saying.
I almost, you know what? I thought about it. I was gonna have the G&T.
Wait till you hear my most embarrassing story. You will.
So the most embarrassing is not on here. Funny, but not most embarrassing, Jennifer.
Well, next 100th episode. The next one is studio business aha moment, and by random selection, But Stephanie.
Dun, dun, dun. I've mentioned this on a podcast, but I think it's worth mentioning again.
Yeah.
Going into my studio pricing business model, it was like, I'm going to decide what you're going to do. You're going to do a new client special. This is how long it's going to be. And you're going to go straight to auto pay because that's what's best for my business. Like, you know what? I'm a Leo. I'm an Enneagram 8. I'm the one spending all the money. We're going to do what I say to do. And I remember very clearly having a client consistently in my studio day after day and still going by a class pack. And it would have made more economical sense. It just, in the whole world, it would have made sense for her to get on my membership unlimited recurring. And when I brought it up to her one day, she's like, listen, I only commit to my partner and my hairdresser. I'm not committing to anybody else. And at that moment, it was hysterical. And then the business aha moment was for me was like, why am I fighting this? I can't change the mindset of someone. And why should I want to? Because from a business perspective, I'm going to get more money on the class pack anyway. And so it was kind of like an aha releasing of, I need to establish my boundaries, my value, my pricing, but I also need to meet the client, potential client, where they are in the mindset of how they buy. How can I make that work for everyone? And that was huge for me because I had decided what you were going to do. And as the professional,
because of your goal.
A third element that, yeah, you're going to do what I need to do because of my goal, but I'm boutique and I'm going to be of service to you. And it just like, I was a little kind of like, aha, at what the confusing message I was putting out.
Any relatability, Jennifer, Sarah?
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback off of that.
Yeah.
My pricing, I feel like my pricing is pretty tight. I think you all know Katie Domzanti. She's in Orlando with me.
Yeah.
She and I support each other. I've worked with a couple of mind body consultants. So I feel like my pricing is pretty tight. I do an unlimited, adding a limited package and getting rid of the 5-class package, but doing a 4-class limited membership reoccurring was an aha moment because it was like, okay, that's a good one. But then this probably over the last 2 months, attendance has really kind of fallen off. May was just abysmal. And it's so hot. there's no rhyme or reason to why people decide to come, why they don't decide to come. I've been a studio owner for 10 years and I've not been able to discern any kind of pattern. So I was like, all right, we need to do something. So I came up with a summer special, $250 for 90 days of unlimited yoga, no perks, no extensions, no discounts. And because I looked at the limited and the unlimited pricing and like the customer journey going from the trial membership into the unlimited. They get a discount if they go straight into that. People were falling off though. They weren't like you were talking about, Stephanie. They weren't doing what they were supposed to do. So I'm like, all right,
or doing what you told them to do.
Exactly. So there was something missing. And we're going to get a special guest appearance here in a minute. I was like, all right, well, I'm going to come up with this summer special, $250, like I said, $250. And I priced it in such a way that people who were already on the unlimited wouldn't want to cancel. So it's like just maybe like 50 cents less than the unlimited if they followed the customer path. And I was like, okay, it's 90 days, $250, 90 days from the date of purchase. And it's going to be on sale from June 1st to August 31st. And then after that, it's gone. And you can 90 days, no specials, no extensions, no discounts, no freezes, no guest pass, no commitment. Once your 90 days is up, you're done. And I was like, maybe if I can get people to commit to that, and it's prepaid, if I can get people to commit to that, maybe they'll decide after their 90 days is up, maybe they'll say, oh, you know what, I want to stay here. So that was my business aha moment.
Yeah. And you can also like think about if you have that incentive to convert into membership, you could be that same incentive that you had going from intro.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you,
I
Sarah.
think those little chunks, like it's a matter of knowing, like in the pricing side, it is a matter of knowing your area,
Mhm.
you know, and being able to like have 10 years worth of knowledge like you have, like that's like, this is not making sense. Let's just try something. I mean, you try
Mhm.
it and you see, you know, and you might be able to save some people that are going to just cancel for the summer and then start back up. You might be able to just get them on that. And then, like you said, and then fall comes and they're ready to get back into their regular membership.
Thank you, Sarah.
I will go next. And
Well,
not pay
you're
attention to
messing up the
Michael's.
algorithm here. Sarah just jumped in out
She
of
don't care.
order.
That's why we like it. She
She
don't
just
care.
barged
Do it.
in out of order there.
Okay,
Now you're
I'm
gonna
a
go.
Scorpio, so I don't follow directions from others either.
The
So
Wait a
algorithm
I
minute,
will,
messed
Sarah.
up.
What are you? Sarah, what are
Cancer.
you? Leo. Mhm.
Cancer with Sag rising.
Saggy here. Go,
That's a whole nother
Jennifer.
episode.
well, I wanted to just stay kind of on that same tangent.
Mm.
I have two ahas. One is the first time I raised prices. I was
Mm.
really nervous about raising prices because I was nervous. And when I first opened up the studio, I kind of looked to see, I did what everyone else was doing. I went like, you know, changed things a little bit. I had way too many pricing options and
Yep.
at that time too. So I've kind of narrowed things down over time. But I just decided like, okay, I'm going to write a letter to everybody that was on membership. I don't care about like 10, not class cards. You could just raise those anytime. Nobody really knows the difference. But the people who are on membership, you know, I just wrote them a really nice letter and I just said, here's, you know, it's October and, you know, here's what's happened. And I did try to do kind of the shit sandwich of, you know, like, oh, that's so nice. The prices are raising and then you get a little extra something. So I added in like a perk or two, which were really negligible perks. And I set the stage for membership for pricing changes every October.
Yeah.
Would you be kind enough to share that letter with me?
Yeah, I can try to find it. It was from 2015. I was a different person then. And I was much nicer.
They were
If
pleasing.
you can
They were
believe that.
thanking.
You know what I think is funny? I think it's funny that when you become a yoga studio owner, you actually become a meaner person.
Especially internally, like my outward facing face does not show the resting bitch face as much. Yes, I will. I think I have a couple
Namaste, you
different samples.
motherfucker.
Exactly. Yep,
Namaste.
totally. But I didn't have anybody push back or anyone cancel. So, I mean, it was
Yeah.
like a $10 a month type
Yeah.
thing anyway. And, you know, we still have Pilates bar and spin in the area are still higher than yoga, which is just fucking ridiculous. Like for a 45-minute class where basically all they are is a DJ. And, you know, like to be a yoga teacher, you have to go through so much training and do so many things besides this on the side. But that's a different conversation. So
All right. Go.
my one definitely was raising the price. And then my second one was the first time that I had to let an employee, a teacher go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was really scared about that. I was nervous. She had probably the most experience. She was like the biggest draw, quote unquote.
Yeah.
But
You face that? That's a common problem.
yeah, totally. And people are scared, like, oh my gosh, people are going to leave, blah, blah, blah. And
they
I
have too many
for a while.
classes and too much power.
She was not a team player. She did not follow the 8 limbs of yoga. She was, and finally it got to the point where it was like, I didn't care if she talked shit about me, fine, I can handle it. But then it was like talking shit about other teachers and just like, she really wanted to step into like the guru position of teaching and like bow down to me type of a situation. And so I worked with a coach to have the conversation. I read some book about it and it just like, I was so nervous. I called her and I said, we had to have a conversation. And she was just like, well, I don't want to wait. And I said, well, you know, I would like to talk to you in person tomorrow. And she's like, well, what is it about? You know, and I was like, well, it appears our core values aren't lined up. And I had like my whole thing that I said, and she was like, fine. And I said, okay, but you know, if you would like, and this was a mistake that I made, I would not do this again. She was set to teach the next day. And I had thought that I was going to have the conversation with her the next day after that class. So I still had her set to teach. So I said, well, you can, you know, we still have you set to teach, but we won't have you teaching the rest of the month. I will pay you for all your classes the rest of the month as just like, you know, just to shut up and go. And I, of course I was going to be at the class the next day, and she started talking shit in the room. Like about, well, this is my last class. I have no idea why they don't like me, blah, 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 blah. Like a couple fucking students were crying, which also showed me like, non-attachment, like that was not, that was happening, attachment. And I think we lost like 2, maybe 3 members, but I felt so proud of myself as an owner for doing that. And then the morale for all of the other teachers who had been with me for 7 years, it was like, oh, thank you so much. Like, I didn't want to come to you, but like, this happened and that happened and blah, blah, blah. And I was, of course, like, why didn't I do this 6 months ago? But I also just felt like so fucking proud of myself for doing it.
Yeah. Jen, how do you do it differently now? So, I imagine now you've probably got a tighter onboarding and then tighter process holding to values. And so what have you learned from that?
It's a great question. I mean, we all hear hire slow, fire fast, right? Right. Like that is the phrase. I definitely lead by that. I don't, I'm very careful in the hiring process. I also haven't hired a lot. Our teachers have been just sticking around, but coincidentally right now I have 2 teachers taking the summer off. So I do have to hire for the summer. We don't have any type of a sub list. So I only have teachers who teach at the studio. I don't have coming and going, but I know now, like if I were to hear something, especially, well, 2 things. One, I don't need to have the star teacher who thinks that they're the best teacher, because even though she had been teaching the longest amount of years, that does not equate. And now I can kind of, and she had taught a bunch of other places and it didn't work out. And then I was like, sure, I could handle her, like whatever. And like, trust your gut, trust your,
oh God,
it doesn't matter if they're a star teacher, if they're going to upset the apple cart and they don't really, really understand your core values, they're not a fit.
Yeah.
Can we just, I want to stay on that. So what about the studio owners that are desperate? I mean, there's a lot of studio owners that are really, really desperate, and it's hard to be picky about who you're hiring.
Well, I think you have to be willing to train people up, and be very clear in like a mentorship type of a thing where you're going to be attending their classes. They understand you're going to attend their classes. You're going to give them feedback and you're going to hold them to that feedback. And maybe they're on a temporary 3-month assignment or something like that,
Sarah?
I don't know if all of you all know, but I took over the studio as the sole owner in October of 2021. By March, I had lost half of my teaching staff. And that was a really big kick in the teeth. But you don't know what you don't know. I didn't realize how toxic these teachers were that left. And they kind of they didn't leave en masse. It was like, I let one go, and then it was like a domino effect. These same teachers, one of them stole a Buddha from my studio, or another teacher, and a student saw it, told me about it. I was like, okay. Then these teachers all got together.
Aligned.
They all got together and they were emailing students at the studio. They were trying to get people to come to their classes and, over some, place where they were renting space. Then they had a woman buy a building for $900,000, take it down to the Breeze Block, and spent who knows how much money this poor woman spent. And then they dissolved the company because they couldn't get it to go. And I was like, well, there's your karma. And none of them are teaching anywhere. And I was like, the whole time, behind the curtain, I was like, I was literally beside myself. I'm like, what in the hell is going on here? And they had a private Facebook group, and they were just saying stuff about me and about the studio and all this stuff. And I was like, you know what? My students are watching me, and they're watching how I am going to respond and how I'm going to react. And I did nothing. I didn't say anything negative. I didn't say anything about what was happening. I did nothing. Now, if somebody did ask me about the particular teacher who stole the Buddha, I was very upfront about it. And I said, this particular teacher did steal from my studio, and a student saw it, because I felt like that's not gossip. That was actually an event, and it happened to me. And I was like, well, that's what happens, so I'm I've worked really hard since then to build my team. And I mean, I did a yoga retreat where I closed the studio for a weekend, and I took all of my teachers over to Ormond Beach, and we rented a house. I did team building and all kinds of things, just to show them that we are a team. And I have a really, really solid teaching staff. And I understand what you're saying, Jennifer. It's difficult. I need to hire one, maybe two teachers. And I'm so nervous about bringing somebody in, especially an unknown, because it's going to change the energy of the group. And I just have put so much effort and so much energy into making my team as strong as it is, that I hear you. I feel you.
Well, one thing that I always, one thing is that is like a negotiable for me for hiring, is they have to come and do our intro offer first and take classes at the studio, so that I could see them vibing in the space and see how, I mean, I'll do it for free for them, but they have to interact with people. I have to see how they move in the space. And a lot of times you kind of know.
I make people audition.
Yeah.
They're like, well, what am I going to teach? I'm like, I'll tell you when you get here.
Yeah.
And, and I don't even take the class. I just sit in the back, like watching somebody do a practicum. And I'm like, okay, I want you to do this, 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 and this. You don't have to do it on both sides, but I want to hear their voice. I want to see how they cue. I want to see how they do their practice. Because I've had some people come in and their practice itself, like the way that they do the shapes could be injurious to somebody. If they're using that, if people are watching them, they're doing a chaturanga that looks like shit. And I'm like, oh, my shoulders, so I am very, very careful about that. And I audition everybody so that I can hear their voice and see. So that's the way I've approached it.
Stephanie's like, what's a chaturanga?
I know what that is.
She's secretly going like this to you.
Stephanie, on learning about firing, what about your first fire?
You know what? If you put it out there, sometimes Jesus helps you in these kinds of situations. I had two difficult things where I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And then all of a sudden they found their way out the door and they thought that it was their idea. I liken, which might not be popular, hiring and dealing with staff the same as dealing with difficult teenagers. And maybe Jen, you can relate. I mean, like I would get very aha moments because there were things that I was allowing my staff to get away with that my kids would never even ask to do. And I realized I got to look inside and tap into, for example, I think because I'm the kind of person who doesn't like to be micromanaged, I went into studio ownership thinking these are grown ass people. I don't need to tell them what to do. And in reality, I think people thrive with structure, and it was what I should have done. And the aha moment came because obviously I did not set up my business correctly for me to be out for 18 months. And in hindsight, take your key out of your purse, put it in the front door, turn the alarm off, turn the lights on, like that, turn the air conditioner on. Because I would get to the studio and get frustrated because the air conditioner had to be left on and the music system was on. And I would get mad and it would build up. When in essence, I had not ever really gone through the checklist.
The checklist.
That's a great, thank you. That's a great idea.
And here's the deal. It helps you in so many ways because when you want to exit the business for a week, a day, a sabbatical, or, oh my God, sell it. Here you go. This is how you do it.
Yeah.
Before smart thermostats, leaving the heat on overnight was the worst.
Oh God. In Louisiana, I'm like, do you know how much you cost me? Do you know how much it cost me for this to run in July?
So
Yeah.
I typically, when we have a space to fill, my first step for hiring is going to my teachers.
Studio.
Oh yeah. Is going to my teachers because they know the studio well and they know the values. And I ask them first, who is out there that you guys have come across that you think is a good fit for the studio?
Mm.
And so I usually give them that first. Yeah. And almost everyone we've hired has come from a teacher recommending them.
Yep.
Steph,
was that your aha moment?
What?
No.
No. What's your aha moment?
What is my aha moment? My aha moment. Yeah, we already did my aha moment, didn't we?
Yeah.
Oh, did we?
Dealing with
Way to
your
pay attention.
like teenagers.
Jeez. It's just because we went off of his script.
You're off of my algorithm.
Yeah, apparently it was so enlightening. Everybody,
I mean, there's only 3
resonated
people.
and
I
remembered.
think we can keep it organized.
All right. Funny stories.
Funny story.
All right.
We'll go to the funny story. So I decide at the end of class, I'm going to, because I was a bar studio owner, that we're going to do, I had done like this meditation or whatever one time and everybody loved it. So they wanted a part of meditation. And the meditation that I had done was like a recorded whatever. And I'm like, I can do this, right? So everybody takes class and they're all laying down and you have to change your demeanor. And I put the soft music on and I get the card that I'm supposed to read. And of course, I'm stumbling through it and I'm trying to have the mood be reflective. And after I'm done, everybody in the class just started laughing. They're like, yep, nope, can't, nope, it's not your wheelhouse. No, done. Thank you for the attempt. Not going to do that again. Thank you very much. But I really thought I could do it. And I was like, just lean into this.
You got direct feedback.
Direct feedback.
Did you use the yoga voice? Did you make your voice?
I tried.
And
then I was like, and I realized, I don't know if y'all have ever seen the meme, which I think is hysterical. And it's just like the video of like the beach and you could hear the water coming in and the person is talking very methodical, but they're just like, do you ever run into that person and you just want to say, oh my God, you little bitch? And like, so he's saying the words that are resonating, but the manner in which he's speaking is very calming. I'm like, maybe I need to aim for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I tried.
Well,
it didn't work.
And it does have to be a specific kind of tone to, I mean, I've heard some that people reading Shavasnas, that it just comes across as really fake and sounds awful. It's got to come from a heart.
Yeah. It has to be authentic.
But to your point, Jennifer, like try whatever you want to try. Some things will work and some things won't. I gave it a shot. Didn't work. Okay, move on.
Cross that off the list.
As well, you're not gonna, not that this is an aha moment for my studio, but personally, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. I'm kind of crass, and I mean, I look like a Southern belle, and you could put me on the back of a Harley, or you could take me to a presidential ball, but I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. And it took me personally a long time to come to that realization and be okay with it, and be okay with that, be okay with the fact that not everybody who comes into my studio is going to stay. They're going to be like, it's not for me. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay.
Well, you know what they say, right? If you appeal to everyone, you don't appeal to anyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So that helped me personally just become, my authentic self as I continue to evolve as a teacher, and as well as as a studio owner, and just being there and connecting with our community, connecting with my community. I have a, can I say the F word? I have a fucking amazing yoga community with my studio. And I just love it. I love it. So
I just have to click a button that says adult content.
You got Stephanie and I on here. You're gonna be
it's gonna be bleep.
Just set that up as always clicked. We're adults. We might have adult content.
They force you to click it. Well, Sarah, you just went back to aha moment. You got a funny?
I do have a funny, and it's not actually a studio funny, it's a teacher funny. I mentioned that last September I closed the studio and I took all my teachers. We went to Ormond Beach and rented a house, and we had so much fun. We all brought food to eat and drinks, and we had a pool with a hot tub. It was on the lake or on the one of the rivers. And the second night, after, I don't even know how, I think there was some tequila involved. There may have been some wine. We all decided that we were going to learn how to twerk. And there is not one, I have one teacher that knows how to twerk. And since this is a podcast, I can't share the picture, but I do have a picture of one of my teachers in a handstand with her feet against the wall trying to twerk. And that
Love
was, none of us could do it.
Inverted
except
twerkness.
That might be a
Inverted
good
twerk.
workshop.
New workshop. Yeah.
That's
Boo-
work.
boo-
That's work. So that's my funny story.
Oh, thank you. Jennifer.
Okay. I had so many, and I kind of narrowed it down to one because it's a little different from the other ones. So when I first started taking yoga, before I opened up the studio, I was taking hot yoga classes because I had come from like a fitness background, and I thought that yoga was too boring. And if I didn't feel like I needed to throw up halfway through the workout, that it really wasn't a workout. So I really liked that Bikram, like where they were so mean to you and you felt like you were going to throw up. And so right away, I decided, like, this was in like 2010, 2011, something like that. These like little shorts that they wore, like the little tiny stretchy shorts and like the little tiny workout top. And, I was like, okay, this is what you wear. And I was like, not 100% sure I was going to stick with it. So I didn't really want to spend a lot of money on the stuff. And the studio that I was going to had this sale, and it was like 50% off. So I got these little trunks. They were bright pink, and I just loved them. And I wore the shit out of them. And I thought I looked so damn hot in these little tiny shorts. And I wore them for probably 3 years. And I was opening my studio, and I was looking at getting retail. So I was like, oh, I want to get those little shorts. Like I look so hot in those shorts. I always thought there was like one weird thing about them, but I just was like, oh, these are just Bikram shorts, whatever. So I go to order them. I come to find out they're men's, and they had like a little pocket in the front for like your junk. And it was always like, and it was very obvious. It was like a cod piece that had extra padding. And I remember always thinking, like, I'm so skinny, like this, like if this whole area, like I could pull it, I could keep something in
You
there.
had a sack
But I
pouch.
just thought that I just was so skinny and awesome. And then I realized, no, those were men's shorts that you wore all over town for 3 years with a place for a banana. And, and so I
I
ordered
didn't think
the
it was
shorts.
possible, but I love you so much more now, Jennifer.
I wish I still had them, because the minute that I realized it, I put them on and I was like, oh, I'm such a dumbass. These are obviously for men.
And yet no one in your life brought that up to you.
What do I have?
Well,
I don't know
how
about
many
you.
friends are
on?
telling you that they're looking at your crotch?
I don't know about you ladies, but I probably about 10 years ago, I had on just like a pair of regular shorts, and I did a down dog, and I looked at the skin on my legs and I went, oh, hell to the no. Ain't nobody ever seeing my thighs uncovered ever again.
I can tell you there's one pose that they look really good in is legs up the wall. Because
Yes.
everything kind of comes down and you're like, oh my God, there's my legs from my 30s. Like, there they are.
I have muscle definition.
I'm gonna take a picture and I'll reverse the picture so it looks like I'm standing up. But it's like everything like comes down into your hip creases and your legs just look amazing.
Yep.
Fashion tips on the next episode by Jennifer Pahl.
Episode 51.
What not to wear.
Exactly. So
Sarah,
that's
if you were a yoga pose, what would you be and why? Thank you, Jennifer. That's hysterical.
I would be wide-legged forward fold, because it's, first of all, it feels really good for me. It's one of my money shot poses. But it also, it's such an open pose. It reminds me of how much I put my arms around my studio and how much I put my arms around my yoga community. So
Nice. Jennifer.
well, some days I think I'd be corpse pose, because that's about how I feel. But the pose that lets me like embody yoga the most that I really like is Ardha Chandrasana half moon pose. I feel like it's a big heart opener. There's balancing. You're kind of spreading like, east and west, north and south. It just feels like a really connected pose.
You're the third studio owner to say that on this season.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
I love, by the way, I love an Ardha Chandrasana. And it's when I teach vinyasa, people, and I don't teach half moon, people are like, where was the half moon? Why did we not have half moon today? Because I teach in all the classes, because it was I started as an Ashtangi. And when I started taking vinyasa classes, I had no balance in half moon. I'm like, I'm going to get this freaking pose. And I worked on it. It's one of my favorites. So
Stephanie, do you like it?
I have no idea what she's talking about.
You're just going like this, nodding your head.
Nodding away, and
I do have a pose, but I have no idea what
I'm
she's
like, this
talking
is another language to her.
Well, what's your favorite bar pose besides bar stool?
No, I have a favorite yarn. My favorite exercise ever in the whole world is a plank.
Oh,
I
really?
think it's challenging. I think it works everything. I feel very powerful when I do it.
I agree.
Love it. My favorite yoga pose, and I say favorite because I think it challenges me, although I feel strong when I do it, is I do this in warrior. Like it's a very challenging pose for me.
Yeah.
The whole alignment of stuff, the whole being still thing, the openness of the hips.
Yeah.
But I feel like,
but you can feel the warrior in the pose.
I can feel the warrior. Yep.
Awesome.
I like wild thing, dancer pose, stuff that opens the front up for me. It just makes me feel a lot more free and open. Do you know
Gonna
what
run
is,
like
Steph?
the wind. Da-na-na-na. What?
Run like the wind.
There you go. That's when you know you're with your group, is when you start it and they can pick it up.
Guys, thank you so much for being here on the 50th episode. That was super fun. I think stories are great. I think they're super relatable. You are the perfect storytellers to be here for the 50th episode. So thank you. Sarah, where do we find you?
You can find me at Red Sun Yoga, www.redsunyoga.com in Winter Springs, Florida, which is just outside of Orlando.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Michael.
Stephanie, where do we find you?
I don't want to be found.
You know what? If anybody could find me, it would be me.
Not until the fall. Come back to me in September.
I'll get back. You put in the show notes. Breaux Bradley. Just look up Breaux Bradley wherever you want to go. Yep.
Breaux Bradley Consulting.
Breaux Bradley.
And I am twist-yoga.com or twistyoga_Lake Oswego or jcpaulconsulting.com. I can share my OnlyFans, but that'll be in the next episode.
Well, we are on YouTube. We are on YouTube now, so everybody can see this in its glory on YouTube for this episode. Thank you so much. I'm really just thrilled to have you guys as friends and colleagues, and thank you for sharing all your fun stories today.
Thank you so much for including me.
Of course. So thanks for being here, everybody. And that's a wrap on this episode. Bye, folks.
See you later. Thank you.
Bye. Let's take a moment to breathe and talk about turning your yoga business dreams into reality and nurturing the growth of your yoga sanctuary. At Yoga Biz Champ, I offer 2 specialized coaching packages tailored just for you. My Starter Studio package is designed for dreamers ready to bring their vision of a yoga studio to life, while my Grower Studio package supports existing yoga studio owners in expanding their impact and community reach. So again, head over to yogabizchamp.com/podlink. Remember to follow, like, and leave a review wherever you're listening to this podcast. Your support helps me connect with more yoga visionaries like you. Until next time, keep stretching towards your dreams. Namaste. Last but not least, before you head off, we have a new feature, and that is if you look at the show notes, you can now send me your email by DM directly from the show notes on this podcast. If you send me your email by DM, I will send you my booking link. That's the fastest way. And also don't forget, we can also now be found video version on YouTube.